Hey guys, it's the Sketch Monkey here, and welcome back to the Sketch Academy channel. Now, it's been a long time since I uploaded the last video, and the reason for that is I've been doing a lot of digital sketching lately and haven't really done any analog sketching. But tonight I thought I'm just gonna chill out, take it easy, and sketch a little side view here. And this is going to be in real time. It's going to be a two-door coupe, front engine coupe, or maybe I guess we can say it can be electric if you wanted if you want it to be. But the reason it's front engine is because of the position of the A pillar, so you have some space for the engine in the front under the hood there. Otherwise, we would move the A pillar forward, and that would be a mid-engine sports car. Anyway, the tools I'm going to be using here is just a simple big pen, and I'm going to be using one single marker. The reason for this is because I want you to be able to follow along in these videos, and maybe some of you don't really have a lot of markers, maybe you don't have any markers at all. You can still follow along in this sketch here if you want to, because there are no fancy tools going on here. I am using some marker paper, and the reason for that is because that was the paper that was closest to me. Otherwise, I would just have picked any old print paper, envelope, or sheet of whatever is laying around. Because I'm lazy like that, so I just pick whatever is closest to me, pick up the pen, and just start doodling some stuff. So things that you want to think about here is, first of all, when you're sketching cars like this, do you want it to be a front engine, or do you want it to be a mid-engine or rear engine? And that all depends on where you have your greenhouse. Of course, when you have the greenhouse further back, that means that you will give space in the front to have an engine underneath the hood. And if you move the greenhouse forward, we could do that on this sketch as well if we wanted to. We would just move the A pillar forward and have the C pillar move forward as well, dip a little bit sooner so that it meets the body somewhere above the rear axle instead of all the way in the back there. If we move the greenhouse forward, then we can easily have made this into a mid or rear engine car. So those are the main things to think about when you want to sketch a car, is to first figure out what type of car am I going to sketch. And once you have that done, all you got to do is just pick up the pen, and you can use some reference pictures if you want to, or you can just sketch from without reference and just try to make it completely freehand from your mind, and see how that is going to turn out. Now, if you do that and you have some issues with some proportions, or if you're sketching in perspective, you have some issues with where some things are supposed to go in perspective, all you got to do then is just to throw up a reference picture of whatever you're sketching. Doesn't have to be the exact same car, but a similar car, and just find the perspective or side view you're working with. And from there, it's pretty easy to see what is wrong with your sketch. And of course, from there you can start to make adjustments. That brings me to the second point of sketching like this. As you can see, I'm using a big pen here. Now I get a lot of questions about this. Why am I using a big pen and not a pencil? Because you can erase the pencils, but you can't erase a big pen. Well, that's just my personal preference. And it has to do with not giving me an option to erase, but instead I have to, if I make a mistake with a big pen, I have to then figure out how to fix that problem by moving some lines around. And it also, I think it made me learn how to sketch quicker, because I saw my mistakes sooner, and I knew that I can't erase. I'm not using a pencil, so I have to figure out how to solve those problems. And when I do that with a big pen, those mistakes that I make, they stick in. They're easier to remember because I had to fix them instead of just erase and start over. If that makes sense. And also, I kind of like the bleed that you get from big pens when you go over it with markers. It looks, a bit dirty, and it looks a bit, it just looks sketchy. It's a sketchy sketch, and I like that. I don't like perfection in my sketches. I never strive for anything to be perfect. I just strive for it to be as close as it is to my idea of what I'm sketching in my head. That's all. Perspective and line quality and stuff like that. It's always going to be messy when you use Bic markers, but it's not a big deal. So if you're using a pen or pencil, that's totally up to you, of course. Whatever you want to do there. But I would honestly recommend try to sketch with pens more than pencils, because I honestly think that you will learn how to sketch faster when you're using just a pen and a pen. I was about to say a pencil there, but when you sketch using just a pen, because you're forced to fix those mistakes as you go along. There's no undo, so you can't hit Control Z when you have a pen, and it's a really good way of learning sketching. Now, as you can see here, we're starting to add some line weight to this sketch. As I said, I just wanted to use one marker, and the problem with that, or the challenge with that, is to get the shading done right, or get any shade at all. I'm just using a cool gray 1 for this, so it's not even a lot of pigments in there. The shade is very, very light since it's a cool gray 1. It just gives this tiny, subtle reflections on the car here. So what you can do if you only have a couple of markers, maybe you have 1 or 2, I mean, you can buy these separately. So honestly, if it was me, if I was starting out, I would just go and buy a set of cool grays, whether it be 3 cool grays or 6 or 10, but that would be the perfect marker set to start with. No colors to think of or to worry about. It's all cool gray, gray shading, so that gives you all the attention on the practice of shading and not the practice of coloring to start with. So if you're starting out with markers, get yourself a set of cool grays. 2 is honestly enough. If you have a cool gray 3, for example, and a cool gray 5, that would be perfect to start with. But anyway, since I'm using just one marker here, I want to go in with a big pen and give it some more shading, or some more depth and some more contrast, because we can't get that with just a cool gray 1 marker. So once you're done with the first layer here of marker, all you got to do is, since the big lines are going to bleed a little bit, all you got to do is just go back in with the big pen and start to fill in the baselines and the wheels and the lines that are supposed to be dark. And I've talked about this before, but the baselines are the lines, or the baseline is the line that is lowest to the ground, of course. That's the bottom of the car. Or whatever product you're sketching. That should always be thicker than the rest of the lines. And then you have the lines that are facing away from whatever light source you're using. And in my case, I like to keep things very simple. So I just have a light source coming from pretty much the same angle at all times. And that would be from the top view or slight rear top view. And I have that in the back of my head at all times. And that means that I can figure out what edges and what lines of this car are facing away from that light source. And those edges and lines are supposed to be thicker than the rest of the lines that are facing towards the light source, if that makes sense. And also, if you're worrying about smearing your big lines with the markers here, one thing to think about is what I like to do is use the Bic very, very light, some light lines with the Bic before you go in with the markers. So get the perspective down and get the proportions down, and then when those things are done and on the paper, then you can go in with the marker and add some of that to your sketch if you want to, if you're using marker at all. And when you have the marker and you know that you are going to go over the big lines, just don't apply too much pressure to the marker when you have some solid big lines that you have to go over with a marker. Because the more pressure you apply to the marker, of course, the more smear you're going to get from the big lines. And that's kind of my procedure here, is to just start very light with a big pen. Until I have the proportions, perspective, and the general design down. Then start with some markers, go in with some light markers or whatever markers you're using. Once I'm done with the markers, I go back with a big pen and fill out all of these lines again and add some more contrast to the sketch. And that's about it for this video. That's what I wanted to share with you today. Some simple, chill car sketching in Sideview. It's always fun to do, especially these two doors. I love to do this whenever I get 10 minutes to spare. Just pick up the big pen and throw some lines down. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you like these kind of videos, subscribe to the channel, and also give me some ideas on what to sketch and what to do with this channel. I can continue to sketch cars and stuff all the time, but if you want to see something else, just comment down below and I'll be more than happy to make videos on that related to sketching, of course. I'm the Sketch Monkey. Thanks so much for spending a few minutes with me today. I will see you in the next video. Take care.